Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Matei. I'm here with the Northeast Pennsylvania chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. It's November 18th. I'm standing outside of the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority building, where we're holding a press conference about the county's secrecy in its dealings with ICE and its complicity in ICE's violence against our communities. We're here with our coalition partners, Action Together, NEPA, and NEPA Stands Up, speaking about our 287G agreement that the county has entered into, the district attorney's office has entered into with ICE, deputizing county detectives to act as ICE agents on the county's dime. We're also here speaking about our right to know request for the lease agreement between LCFPA and Homeland Security Investigations, which we filed way back in March and 8 months later have still not received anything about, and to talk about how ICE has already impacted our communities, recent ICE activity in the area, and fathers and children that have been taken from their families, and all the other horrible things ICE has been doing, and how these agreements between the county and ICE do more harm to our communities than they do any good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks especially for anyone here from the media for getting here so last minute. I know the press release went out kind of late, but my name is Mike Matei. I'm a member of the Northeast Pennsylvania chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, and we're here today with our partners from the NEPA Immigrants' Rights Coalition. Action Together is here. NEPA Stands Up has supported this event. Their speaker couldn't make it today. He's sick, but we have someone from DSA to fill in. But they're here in spirit. To call your attention to the county's secrecy in its cooperation with ICE and its complicity in ICE's violence against our communities. To talk about ongoing community actions within the coalition and some of our external partners to protect our neighbors. ICE continues to operate with discriminatory, violent policing tactics that disregard the well-being of hardworking people and families in our community and racially profile our black and brown neighbors across the nation and here in Northeast Pennsylvania. ICE is separating families, taking children from schools, trampling on due process, and locking innocent people in detention centers under appalling and abusive conditions. Despite the danger ICE poses to our communities, Luzerne County officials have entered into 2 agreements with ICE, facilitating their expansion and operations in Northeast Pennsylvania, without seeking approval from county residents or bringing us into the fold. The Luzerne County District Attorney's Office has entered into a 287G agreement, deputizing county detectives to carry out immigration enforcement as a proxy for ICE on the county's dime. And at the same time, the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority behind me is leasing part of this building, their headquarters, to Homeland Security Investigations, which is a branch of ICE. Neither of these agreements were widely known to the public until local organizers brought them to light. Luzerne County residents have a responsibility to provide oversight to our government so that it maintains our best interests. When county officials take office, that power comes with an obligation to communicate openly with the community they serve. DSA has filed a right to know request demanding that the full terms of the lease agreement between LCFPA and ICE be released to the public. And in the coming months, we will also urge our newly elected county council to challenge the 287G agreement. And we are encouraging the public to join us at county council meetings, as they have been at flood authority meetings, to pressure the county council to do so. The ACLU of Pennsylvania is supporting our quest for transparency, particularly in the right to know request, because a system that bypasses public input and avoids accountability opens the door for authoritarian governance. So just in case y'all thought that we were blowing things out of proportion, when ACLU gets involved, you know something's wrong. Right? So that's our mission today, is to bring light to the lack of transparency on the county's part, their complicity in ICE's violence against our communities. We're going to have 3 speakers today. I'm going to start us off by talking about the right to know request before I pass it off to Yesenia from Action Together. And then Tony from DSA is going to fill in for our missing friend from NEPA Stands Up. I want to talk not just about the right to know request, but about the full scope of this fight and our interactions with LCFPA and how shady it's been from the beginning, through and through. And I want to start out by pointing out that the LCFPA board, although they are county officials, are not elected county officials. We can't vote them out. They're volunteers nominated and approved internally by the board itself. It's entirely self-contained. So this leaves residents with relatively few options to hold them accountable. The only options we have for making our voices heard are publicity, public comment at their meetings, and legal action. And we're pursuing all three of these. The LCFPA's agreement with ICE is years in the making. It began at least as far back as 2023 when the board approved the agreement, and likely a few years before that for their negotiations. It first came to our attention in February thanks to an article in the Citizen's Voice, and we immediately set out in March of this year, knocking doors around 40 Fort and spreading the news. An agreement that was years in the making, and when we were out there knocking doors that first weekend, virtually nobody we talked to knew that this was happening. So, virtually nobody we talked to knew that this was happening, and virtually nobody we talked to was happy about it happening. And so we began leading the charge in pressuring LCFPA to exit the agreement by giving public comment at their board meetings, sometimes drawing 30 to 40 concerned citizens who came here to make their voices heard. The public does not want this here, and they have not listened to us. It's been 8 months. LCFPA has responded by increasing security and police presence at their meetings, answering only the easiest questions, the ones they looked to their lawyer to and got a nod for, that's it, and releasing statements to the press rather than engaging in any meaningful dialogue directly with the community members who came to speak. This summer, they began restricting public comment to agenda items only. And, they can shoehorn ICE-related things into very broad agenda items, which they released the night before. So they've effectively shut down one of the very few channels we have to actually hold them accountable, one of the very few levers we have to pull for them to actually have to answer to the people. In March, we asked the LCFPA for a copy of the lease, and we filed a right-to-know request. We were told that day, in person, that they would likely be able to provide us with a suitably redacted lease. Their formal response was quite different. They refused to release any details of the agreement at all, arguing that it would threaten public safety and hamper law enforcement operations. They also retroactively signed a non-disclosure agreement with ICE. Now, I don't know about you, but if the information in this lease would be so dangerous in public hands, I would assume that they maybe would have signed a non-disclosure agreement during the previous 2 years of negotiations and not, last minute when the public finally started demanding answers. Naturally, we appealed the decision because they had no reasonable basis for denying us access to the lease. And the Office of Open Records agreed with us. They ruled that the lease should be provided to the public, and that LCFPA had not provided sufficient evidence of a probable threat to public safety. It's November, and we're still waiting. That ruling happened, I believe, in May or June. It was fairly quick. And months later, we haven't received a single thing from LCFPA related to this case. And they're now challenging OOR's decision in court. 8 months into what should be a simple request for transparency, we ask LCFPA, what could possibly be included in a lease agreement that would threaten our community's safety if it were released publicly? It's a lease. If there is sensitive information that needs to be redacted, why can't the basics be released? Who's paying for what? What is LCFPA financially responsible for as landlords? On what terms will ICE repay LCFPA for the $300,000 renovation it has facilitated with its own funds? When is the county getting paid back, and how? Most importantly, is there an exit clause? Day after day, we're seeing all across the nation, ICE continually break the law in their own operations. A law enforcement agency is continually violating the law itself. So if things get bad here, does LCFPA have a way out? Can they terminate the lease? None of the answers to those questions would threaten public safety. But the answer to that last question does directly impact public safety, as ICE continues to violate our neighbors' rights, steal people from their families and communities, racially profile citizens and permanent residents, and use excessive force against immigrants, protesters, and bystanders. If ICE is actively harming our communities, we need to know if LCFPA can terminate the agreement and end their complicity in this harm. The people deserve answers, and we will continue to fight for the release of the full agreement until we have those answers. And we'll continue to fight for the rescinding of the 287G agreement, which Yesenia will now speak on. Thank you.
So my name is Yesenia Rodriguez, and I'm an organizer with Action Together NEPA. A government that operates in secrecy undermines democracy and erodes the due process. We have the right to know how our tax dollars are spent and what programs our government implements in our name. If our elected officials are using our tax dollars towards renovations that make space for ICE, we deserve to be privy to this information. Action Together NEPA is proud to stand with the other organizations here today to follow up on the right to know request regarding ICE lease with the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority. We are disappointed that this issue hasn't been resolved yet. If the argument for secrecy is being made in the name of security, whose security are we prioritizing? Are we concerned about the security of our neighbors, of our local businesses, of our communities? Or are we simply taking claims about security at face value and trusting the word of those who are blatantly operating in secret with no transparency? Our communities deserve to feel safe. When people live in an overly policed community, it has the opposite impact. It creates fear, leading to silence and mistrust in law enforcement that doesn't protect anyone. It leaves harm unreported and unaddressed, houses that keep us safe. Our county has tried to launch a 287G program without telling us, hiding their plans from the residents who will be directly affected. 287G programs allow county entities to work with the federal government and specifically with ICE. Action Together has a lot of questions about how the Luzerne County District Attorney entered into this agreement. Community members deserve to know what the Office of the District Attorney is doing. And all of residents of Luzerne County deserve that transparency. Action Together and members of this coalition believe that programs such as 287G creates conditions where racial profiling becomes standard practice, targeting community members based on how they looked or sound. When this happens, it's clearly a violation of people's due process rights and their civil liberties. All of these points beg to this key question. If county leadership believe this program will genuinely protect us, why did they try to implement it in secret? Why are the details of the lease being kept from the public? Why are the rules not being followed in a way that includes public involvement? This action doesn't make us safer. They break down the trust between community members, law enforcement, and our local government. Action Together will continue to ask questions, demand answers, and hold our local officials accountable to make sure that the concerns of the community are heard and respected. So we are here today because we want answers. Luzerne County residents deserve the answers. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you for being here today.
Hello, I'm Tony with the DSA. I've come here since we started going to the Flood Authority meetings to bring awareness to our community that ICE is coming into our neighborhood. They're already in our neighborhoods. They're grabbing people in Exeter, they're grabbing people in Honesdale, they're grabbing our friends and families in Dunmore. And it's time for us as a community to stand up to ICE. We've tried to go through the means that the Flood Authority has permitted us. We've gone to meetings, we've voiced concerns to them. We've come here knocking on doors with our community members to let them know people are afraid. People are afraid to come out, and having a new ICE facility here will only make things worse. You can't see it here, but there's a convoy of vehicles, unmarked vehicles down the field. The airport is being improved upon to allow for larger aircraft. They don't need to detain people here at this facility. They have stools to shackle them, to process them, to grab our neighbors one day, ship them out the next. Either take them down to New York, put them on a flight to who knows where. I just came back from a vigil this past Thursday in University of Scranton put together. It was very camaraderie to see everybody care about the issues at hand. People are mourning. People are scared. So we come together and we said a few prayers to bring solace to ourselves and our neighbors. But as a few verses that I heard from the prayer, we need to be instruments of justice. We need to stand here as a community. We need to organize outside of the means of the flood authority or local government that chooses to side against us. The flood authority has opened up the gates to ICE, the floodgates, and we need to stand up as a community and organize to stand against that, because we can't rely on our local government to do as much. So as with the DSA and with Action Together, we need to organize and stand up and prevent ICE from dividing our neighborhood and from destroying us. Thank you.
That's all our speakers for this event. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. We'll open the floor for questions now, if anyone has some. I think the Flood Authority, being somewhat autonomous from much of the county government, views this as purely a business transaction, and that the safety of the public with regards to this particular agreement is not a priority of theirs. Whether they're acting in good faith with regards to how they've handled us, our presence, our questions, I think comes down more to what Homeland Security has allowed them to say, which personally I think is inherently done in bad faith.
Yeah, they signed a non-disclosure agreement after we started going to the council.
But even before that, their lawyer was hush-hush about most of the answers they were to our questions. That's a good question. Like this, public comment, legal action. I think that's all we have. The county does not have a ton of oversight over this agency. It is technically a county agency, but it's separated from the main county infrastructure as an authority, much like the sanitation authority, through, what's it called? Is it the Government Services Administration? It's a federal agency that this program is now run through, but it is technically a county level agency. So accountability with them is a bit murky, which is why we're pulling the levers we have. My reading of that agreement, although I've only read the generic agreement for the task force model under 287G, I don't know if there's anything specific to the county that is different. My reading of that agreement is that any immigration enforcement that the district attorney's detectives would engage in would be in their capacity as detectives and would use county resources. I'll say that into the microphone so that it's on this camera. Apparently at that meeting, which I didn't attend, the council did say that any money spent by the county for ICE purposes would have to be approved by the council, since they do control the purse strings. As far as I know, that is the only oversight that they admitted that they have. Very few elected officials have made a public statement. Several local officials have been intermediaries between LCFPA and the public in releasing very controlled statements. That's about all I've seen. We did speak to the mayor of 40 Fort a while ago. The town has basically no control over this outside of whether or not the renovation complied with zoning laws. This would be county level. And with the separation between LCFPA and the county council, there is not a lot of oversight there. That said, there's a new county council on the way, so that might change. And the same is true for 287G. Folks were at a county council meeting, I want to say about 3 months ago. Action Together was there, and they pressed the county council, can you do something about this? You control the purse strings, you run the county government. And the county council at the time said, well, no, it's the district attorney's office, he can run it how he wants. But again, new county council members coming in, we might have an opportunity there to work with them and make some change. Yeah. Okay, we'll wrap up then. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks to folks from the media for showing up somewhat last minute, and thanks for our coalition partners and everyone else here for putting in the work. Keep it up, and well, keep fighting.